Ready to dive in?
You bet.
All right. Well, Jeremy, it's a real pleasure to have you here on the Social Entrepreneurship and Innovation podcast. And for folks who are unfamiliar, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about what it is that you do?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Corey. Happy to be here. Yeah, I'm the founder and VP of Sustainability at Pela. And Pela, our mission is to create a waste-free future. So we're trying to create everyday products without everyday waste. And yeah, that's our goal, is to eliminate 1 billion pounds of waste from landfill by 2028. And then it's a big goal. We want to eliminate 1 billion pounds every year. So that's kind of what we're working on right now.
Certainly ambitious. So it seems like you have your hands full. But what I came across, it seemed the idea for Pila originated on a family vacation you had a little over 10 years ago, a trip to Hawaii. 2020 now, so right around that decade mark. That's really significant.
Yeah.
From idea to now. So I'm curious, first off, just how does that feel to be 10 years in existence here with this concept?
Yeah. It's in some ways it seems fast, but in some way it was a long haul too.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it's amazing to see how far we've come, especially in the last few years. And yeah, it's all started on a beach in Hawaii, just seeing the plastic wash up on the shore. And I was playing in the sand with my son, and my wife was there, and our son was a year and a half at the time, and just on the secluded beach, and saw little pieces of plastic everywhere. And that really bothered me. I was like, who's littering? Where's this litter coming from? And why does my son have to dig in someone else's litter? So anyway, got back and just learned more about plastics in general. So this was 2008, actually, Christmas of 2008. And yeah, found out about biopolymers that can be biodegradable and compostable. But at the time, they were very brittle and very limited applications. So the idea was, I knew this flax straw material was getting burned and wasted on the prairies here. So combine the strong material with these biopolymers to make a material that could be more applicable to more consumer products and make consumer products more sustainable. That's kind of how we got going.
Mm. And so how did you come to isolate phone cases is where we began?
Yeah. So the iPhone 4 was out, and everyone kind of had one. So, and I actually remember in 2004, I was on vacation in Thailand. And so, kind of in the middle of, these isolated islands, beautiful islands, and the people there didn't have much, but everyone had a phone, a flip phone at the time. And I remember thinking, man, this is going to be big if people can, barely afford to live, and they all have these phones. And then the iPhone 4 had come out, and just kind of wanted to be part of that. Everyone is so excited about it, and kind of wanted to be a part of that movement, and needed a very simple product, or what I thought was a simple product. And then kind of looked at it as, how can we make things better? And like, for example, a phone case, the average person keeps their phone for 2 years roughly, but the case to protect it will last for hundreds or thousands of years. That's just like, it's over engineered. It's ridiculous. So kind of wanted to make something just smarter. And that's how we started with the phone case. The iPhone 4 case was the very first case we did.
Yeah. And so, jumping in then to designing a product, was your background in product design, sustainable product design? And I mean, what was approaching that very first concept like?
Yeah, just figuring it out. My background is in environmental science, environmental consulting. So cleaning up contaminated sites. I actually did that for 17 years and worked on Pela on the side. But basically, yeah, just kind of figuring out what good designs were, and drawing things out by hand, and finding good partners who could help design it, and, looking over their shoulder and saying, tweak this, tweak that, please. And yeah, even the packaging, just literally drawing it out and kind of figuring it out from there.
And so what was the timeline between this idea, or the first kind of inception of it, perhaps that moment on the beach in Hawaii, to having the first case in your hand that ultimately someone would buy and use themselves?
It was about 2 years, 2 years of R&D until we finally started our website and got some orders into like a telecommunications company and a small eco-friendly store in Saskatoon, where I'm from. And actually they're still a retailer today. So our very first retailer. It's pretty neat to have them along for the ride the whole way.
And so what did that feel like? That, do you remember the day particularly when you were holding the first official case in your hand?
Yeah, it was really neat. The first product itself, it was neat to see, but I remember it wasn't great. Like we had a lot of problems. It was still too brittle. It'd be breaking, but we got it out there and just kept improving the formula and making it better. And so, looking back, I remember hearing that, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you've waited too long to get it to market. Like just get it out there. We did the best we could, but just always improving on it. So no, it was exciting. It was a proud moment just to see that people actually wanted it and would support it. It wasn't just friends saying, yeah, it's great. It was actually people buying it. There weren't high numbers, but it was some credibility towards heading in the right direction anyway.
That it always seems to be the case, especially with like product-based companies. People are like obsessive over like who, if you're doing sales off a website, like who bought my whatever it is, and like, oh, they're in Sweden, like
Yeah.
who's that person? I feel like I need to talk to that person specifically. It's like very special, and then it's kind of funny to reflect back on that. Probably given the volume of sales that y'all do now, it's a much different game. It's interesting. I'm assuming the case doesn't look like and function like the one that I showed you before our call that I got myself, right?
No, it was a hard case. Yeah, it snapped on and off. Yeah, wasn't the greatest product, but yeah.
And so you mentioned, and I heard this on some other interviews I listened to beforehand, that this was something that you were doing on the side up until about 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Can you say a little bit more about that and why that was the case?
yeah, sure. So I had a good job and I always wanted to do this on the side and just didn't always wanted to start a business. And I wanted to get it to the point where I could do it full time, but it took a lot longer than I realized. But, over that time, I learned a lot, did every part of the business. And, I think the product wasn't ready.
Mm,
Like it wasn't until 2015 when I met my partners, when the product was getting to the point where it was actually ready to scale, kind of thing too. So, but it was a family team, like wife and kids, and getting up super early in the morning and doing it before work, working a full-time job, and then when it got really busy near the end, it was like up till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then doing a full-time job and then racing off to the post office and handwriting notes, and which was cool. We're doing more of that now, like the human to human connection. We're getting back to doing more in that. But
mm-hmm.
Those were some of the most rewarding things. It's like, yeah, you knew, it seemed like you knew every customer because there weren't that many, and you could
Right.
write them a little note and make someone stay. So that was really cool.
And so there came to a point where you brought on a couple partners, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
What really was kind of the inflection point for that? Because I think the timelines I got was like roughly 2015
Yeah.
and 2012 when you had the first concept of product. Like what was happening during that 3 years that ultimately, like, was that always an active pursuit, or
Yeah,
did
it
something else
was.
kind of happen
It
for you?
was. It kept ticking along. Sales would get revenue from sales. I was able to get some government funding because it was an agricultural product. So on the R&D and market research and just surviving basically. But it got to the point where, yeah, it was 2015 and it's like, man, I've been at this a long time. Family vacations are working on Pela and like stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And just realized that I needed help to get it to where I wanted it to go. So I kind of spent the last little bit of money that I had in the company and applied to an entrepreneur event and was lucky enough to get in. It was they had 7,000 applicants and only like 100 people actually got into it. And yeah, that's when I realized that I knew how to make the product, but I didn't know how to market it and scale it. So like 2 partners were actually at that event. And so started growing the relationship from there. And yeah, that's when things really started to turn around.
Mm. It seems common, amongst we're now some 70 episodes in here. A lot of founders, co-founders mentioning much of the same. That they either didn't realize how much they needed some complementary partners in what it is they did, or the fact that they're just so grateful that they had the complementary partner that they started the business
Yeah.
with. And I think that's something that's underestimated, is one, identifying, oh, I can't do everything here. I can't possibly do it. And acknowledging, maybe where your strengths and your weaknesses are as a founding entrepreneur. So I'm interested to know a couple things. Was there anything, like maybe you're just that self-aware? I mean, maybe you are, but I'm curious. Was there anything that kind of brought that understanding to the forefront, of your mind 3 years in? You mentioned mornings, nights,
Yeah.
and that can cause burnout over time. And like, what am I doing this for? And then two, what had you determine that, applying for this particular event for entrepreneurs was the thing for you to do?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it was, the whole time from, I kind of changed my life, like from 2007, really focused on being a better person, a better human, a better father, a better,
Mm.
Friend, and the self-development, self-work, lots of reading, journaling, strength finders. So that's kind of when, and just maturing as a person. And,
Mm.
I think um, the more you can improve yourself, the more you can help, then you can go outside of that. So I think that's a huge part of it. And, and it is surprising to me that I've, played team sports at a fairly high level, like hockey, and seen the value of good teams
Mm.
and seen how teams can go bad. And I've been in corporate environments where I've seen amazing teams and how it could go bad. And looking back on it, it's surprising how closely I held my cards to my chest with my own company. Like it didn't click in, you know what I mean? So I think there was, it took a lot of, like I said, self-discovery. And at the time it was maybe a little bit desperate, but like it was at the end, I realized, hey, I need help here. I can't, it's not going the way, it's not going as fast as I thought. So, and then the entrepreneur event was just, just kind of wanted to be more around like-minded people,
Mm-hmm.
who were entrepreneurs. And I remember the first night I got there, it was, I called my wife and I felt really out of place. I'm like, I don't deserve to be here. These guys are like, and girls are just like, in another world kind of thing. And then, that was hard, but then by the end, I kind of felt like I found my tribe, and,
Mm.
and a lot of people with similar struggles, similar feelings about their business and where they were at in life. So, it was, I can't stress enough how important it is to be around like-minded people and who understand you, and to find the proper teammates and
Mm.
trust people who you can trust is a big part of it for sure.
And then, so from there, it's just been a wild success. No stress, no challenges. No. How did the transition go then? You brought on these two partners with different skill sets. How did it
Yeah.
begin to look in the next, years or so?
Yeah, it took a couple of years of building, even when so Matt Bertulli, he's our CEO, so he's a online marketing wizard guru. So just started testing the waters, trying different things, finding our audience. It took it was pushing a snowball up a hill for a couple of years, and then kind of had some videos go viral, and then just momentum in general as far as plastics in the news and people becoming more aware of sustainability in that. And then, our third partner there, Brad, he was in the toy industry for 20 plus years. So he's literally made hundreds of millions, if not billions of pieces of plastic products and had an exit there, but knew how to scale, had those relationships to help us scale, and kind of wanted to give back and show how we can make products more sustainable. So, and then built out the team from there. And so I think we probably had 5 or 6 employees even, and we're doing fairly significant numbers before I even pulled the pin from my full-time job. So, but it's amazing. It's only 2.5 years ago. We were still kind of working out of our basement here.
Mm.
It's been a crazy ride.
And what was the tipping point on finally determining to give up on the full-time job?
It was just, at a point where the business was able to sustain other staff and me, and also just to be able to focus on, it was just a point in time where I was able to and wanted to focus on this. I always did, but I mean, just the timing wasn't right, and the timing was right at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And So what specifically did your role shape into? It seems like you brought on the marketing expertise, maybe
Yeah.
the scaling and operations and supply chain or something like that. Where did you shape? Was it more so sticking around products, or
Yeah,
where did you?
products, materials, sustainability. So what's next coming down the pipeline, and that's what I really love to do. Like as a kid, I remember like taking things apart in my garage and like trying to figure out things were made and trying to make things and just trying to make things better or redesign them. So that's the part that I really enjoy now. And then yeah, so materials, new products, and then sustainability. How can we be more sustainable overall as a company? So B Corp, and we just got climate neutral certified, which is amazing and
Mhm.
pretty cool. So just and then how can we improve that and just keep pushing it and get better and better?
Yeah, I saw that we actually here at Grow Ensemble just became climate neutral certified as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
Different type of business. We're entirely online, but the internet certainly doesn't have uh, zero environmental impact. So that has to be accounted for. And you mentioned the B Corp certification. When exactly did y'all certify, and how was that process for you?
The process was yeah, it was good. We had some of our team members. Leslie was a big helper of ours to help put that together and kind of go through everything. And her and I went through it. The assessment portion, yeah, it's pretty. It takes some time, at which thorough, which was great. But we got certified. I think it was October of last year. So yeah, so fairly new. But the had the opportunity to go to a B Climate Summit, which was just amazing to be around. Leaders of other companies in that space. And yeah, it's just that again, get back to team. It's an extended team of people who have a common goal,
Hmm.
right? Working together. It's pretty neat to be around people like that.
Was that the summit at the Taos Ski
Yeah.
Valley there?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, this is an interesting question I like to ask folks in the B Corporation community or otherwise, where they obtain the B Corporation certification as we're working on ourselves right now is certainly rigorous. It's a full team effort, but I'm interested to hear from you. What seems to be the significance of that? Because I think some folks may have some skepticisms about certifications, to the degree of
Yeah.
their authenticity or what exactly they signify. And I'd be interested to hear, in your own words, like why was that important to y'all to do, and what does being a part of that community mean?
Sure. Well, credibility for
Mhm.
one thing. Um, Having it in writing, like this, our corporation, this is important to us. So if we ever got bought out or whatever, like that's part of it. That's what we believe. That was the foundation of our company, and we want that to go on. So we were sustainable, like from the roots. We wanted to make the most sustainable product, the most sustainable company, the most socially sustainable, not just environmentally sustainable. So setting those high bars, and then it helps you to measure. Like we want to be the best, so we want to measure ourselves against the best. And by going through that assessment thing, it made things stand out that we can maybe work on how to improve. And doing our carbon footprint, same thing with climate neutral and our life cycle analysis on our cases and everything. It really helps you to gauge where you're at. It provides credibility, but then also it helps you identify areas that you can work on to improve. So
And have you had the privilege of going to one of the annual retreats yet, or is that not lined up for you?
Leslie went to one. I haven't been to one.
Okay.
I just at the other one, but yeah.
Well, when the world allows, I would
Yes,
I would recommend it. I think 2021 will be
that
the
would be
next
great.
opportunity. They're wonderful events. So what currently with your role now, Jeremy, has you most excited at Pela? Like what on your day to day, or what perhaps looking forward? I know we are in this current kind of COVID-19 world, and
Hmm.
maybe the lens looks completely different, but even still, what has you most enthusiastic looking forward for what y'all are working on?
Yeah. Well, so climate neutral was a big one. So we got that now. Now we want to see how we can go the other way,
Right.
right? And so pushing it even farther, just adding more products to our lineup, working with new materials, di- you know, developing new materials, testing different things. That's what's really exciting for me personally. And I think it's exciting for as we grow the team, we can focus on different areas, not get scattered, but I mean, focus and really improve our products, our existing products, and kind of get into new product lines. And I'm really excited about the circular, like Pela 360 we launched, like taking our products back and also taking back competitors' cases so they don't end up in the landfill, and finding another use for that. So we've been doing that forever, but we just started to promote it more now and in retail. So I think that's huge. Like that whole, we call it the responsibility economy, but if every company truly took responsibility from the products from cradle to grave and back again, and responsibility for everything they do, that's, I think, the things would definitely change for the better. So we're trying to lead the way in that. So take complete responsibility for our products, and we'll even take our competitors' cases back and find another use for that, so it doesn't end up in the landfill. And it all goes towards our waste goal. We've mentioned £1 billion. When you measure yourself on waste or those type of things, it starts to like, how can we do that? Well, if we take back our cases, we took back this much waste, but if we take back theirs, we just doubled our waste. You know what I mean? Like it's a different, instead of just measuring on revenue, obviously you have to survive as a company and you have to be financially sustainable. But if you measure yourself on waste, that's what we're doing. It opens your eyes to different things. So.
Yeah, I understood that y'all took back your own cases. That's new information to me, that you've started taking back competitors' cases. So
Yeah.
that's very cool.
That's one of the biggest things we get when someone, if they purchase a Pela case, especially at retail, they're like, well, what do we do with our old case? Well,
Right.
it's a good question. It ends up in the landfill,
Yeah.
right? Like they won't be recycled. So, and then just the amount of waste from all the cases that actually go in landfill every year, it's a lot. Actually, it's close to £1 billion. So that's kind of how we set that goal. Anyway, so we want to find another life for that as well, those products.
And so maybe this is the opportunity in itself, but I'm interested, from your perspective, where do you think for product-based companies is maybe one of the largest kind of dials or levers available to reduce their environmental impact?
I think a lot, like design, product design, like circular design. How can you design your product? It could be just little things, or even, make it lighter or whatever, or use renewable materials, or control the end of life. Like, I think just not thinking about a linear product, like here's a product, I don't care about it anymore. Think about, what happens if we get it back, or what happens if it composts, or, that type of thinking. I think that's, that would be very helpful to improve things. Yeah.
And are there any particular companies in the sustainability space that you looked up to, particularly from the lens of product design?
Well, like Patagonia is just overall credible. All the testing that they've done, the transparency. So we're really working to improve that and have that more front and center as well. So that would be one. 10 Tree, just what they're doing with trees. Fans of those folks as well. So yeah, those would kind of be the top two that come to mind.
Have you happened to read Yvon Chouinard's "Let My People Go Surfing"?
Yes, I read it a few years ago. Yeah, it's good.
I just actually reread it this year. And so there's meaty section on their product design philosophy, and it's brilliant. I really, really do love it. And so, I mean, that has me interested. Are there any particular principles or philosophies, obviously with the idea of sustainability in mind, but any things outside of that y'all lean on for your design of new products? I saw you just released a case for the Apple AirPods as an example. As you're approaching a new product, are there any kind of principles or strategies that y'all lean on?
So for our materials, first of all, it starts with designing it, making something as sustainable. First of all, do you need it?
Right.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And, but we try and, we kind of look at our materials as good, better, best. So good is, made with some renewable resources and biodegradable. Better is renewable, compostable. Best is renewable, compostable, circular. Can we take it back? Can we reuse it? That type of thing. So I think that that would be our overall lens, our sustainability lens, how we look at things. So, and then, then it from there, it's like, how can we improve our processes? Um, where do we manufacture? Can we get the manufacturing centers closer to the distribution centers so they're not being shipped, back and forth and on all that? So that's kind of what we're working on streamlining now, but just kind of looking at every aspect of it, the packaging. How do we need packaging? If we're sending it, if someone orders online, do we need a retail packaging?
Right.
No, we don't. We stopped doing that a long time ago. Like, and that type of thing. So, or can this envelope be used as a retail package? And can we use that envelope? Can they put that their old case in that envelope and send it back to us? So we're playing with those different things, and it's fun. I think that's the one thing you got to look at it. How can you be creative? If you're always thinking, how can we make this better? How can we make this better? Like questioning every single thing, that allows us to be creative, and that's what we enjoy.
And so how do you, I'm sure there's a wealth of ideas and ways to make these improvements or things that you could do to make improvements. How are you prioritizing and determining what to focus on first?
Yeah. So we're kind of following like a 70-20-10 principle. So 70% is our core business. I think it's a Google model that they use. And 20% is kind of the next fairly easy. And the 10% is like your moonshots kind of. So really pushing outside your category. So that's kind of how we focus right now. We're focusing on, smartphone accessories, because that's actually a really big market and we can go really deep on that. But then testing the water with like sunglasses, and we have some other products in mind as we go. There'll be some other announcements coming up here, but and then how can we help people create a waste-free like life or lifestyle, or how can we help people be more waste-free?
And are there any particular common mistakes that you see younger sustainable products companies make themselves that maybe you wouldn't mind sharing some advice on?
Well, I think I haven't really looked at any other. As long as they're legitimate and have the certifications and they, that's great. Give it a go, get in the ring, step in the arena, right? Like give it a try. I think, just get on that track. I lost my train of thought of that, but get on that track for sure. That's what I was going to, sure. I remembered. And don't be afraid. I mean, like, we're not perfect. We a lot of times will launch a version 1 and maybe it's 100% the best we want it to be, but we'll learn and improve on that. But don't be afraid to get it out there and then just keep improving. I think that's a big part of it. You don't want to be sitting on your hands and paralysis by analysis type of thing. Get it out the best you can, get that feedback, improve. Second generation, same thing. Third. So I think that's key.
I mean, that excellent advice. I think I can succumb to that myself, wanting to make something perfect before actually getting it out to our audience, to our community. But you don't really, there's no harder feedback than people truly expressing using what it is, the service or product that you provide, or, refusing to pay for it at all. That's pretty good feedback in itself.
That's right.
How do you balance that thread, with a version 1 or whatever it might be of a product to decide something is done enough to put out to your audience?
Well, I think there are two different situations. I think when you're starting out and it's maybe just you, I think you have a lot more. You get that product out there. You don't have as many resources to get it as perfect as you can. But now we're at the point where we can. We have the resources and the team where we can do, like, we can get it to almost perfect. Usually it is perfect. And then it might, like, then we can do more work afterwards. So I think the bar is different for where we're at now versus where we were, kind of thing. So does that help?
Well, yeah, no, that's super helpful. I mean, it's, probably prioritizing revenue as a younger company is the best thing, so that, for one, in your example, being able to find other resources to support where you aren't as strong, as far as growing a holistic business. So bringing resources in allows you to kind of spread those out and hopefully tend to some of those weaknesses. So that makes a lot of sense. and then it does seem the case when folks are a little bit more established, they can play around with things a little bit more, do maybe a little bit more upfront R&D before just getting it out there and getting
Yeah.
the harsh, very quick feedback. So that's super valuable. And so I guess thinking about, Pila now, I know there's so much in this, but I'm curious, what few things are you most surprised about uh, um, with how the company looks today versus, it starting as just an idea for you about a decade ago?
Yeah. It's funny because like you have these dreams of this big company when you start out. So you dreamt it, but I don't know if you truly believed it. Like you kind of think,
Yeah.
yeah, we could probably do it. But then when you start getting other people involved, they're like, no, you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. Like people who believe in you and who have done that, and like, oh yeah, we can sell this many. And that is I think the confidence and the momentum, and then having a team where it's like 1+1=3 kind of thing. Like it just keeps building and getting better and different ideas and just better, that type of thing. So I think yeah, not surprised about it, but it's just that's one of the most rewarding or cool things is to
Mm.
see different people add their input to this dream and make the dream even better and bigger. Um, that's the cool part.
Mm. And then in the realm of designing and creating sustainable products, is there something that you feel like, I'm sure there's just been a wealth of new understandings over time, but are there any particular maybe reflections or understandings that you've come to now that you had no idea existed a few years back?
I think circular is a lot
Mm.
that's kind of thinking about that at the time, but that has really changed in general. I think that's circular design. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation is a really good resource for that. But just thinking about the end of life, we want our products to have a graceful end of life. We talk about that a lot.
Mm.
So whether like, yeah, it goes back to the earth or we take it back and give it another life and then it goes back to the earth. So I think the whole, yeah, thinking circular is something that 10 years ago we were thinking more just let it go back into the ground, but not now we take it back and give it a second or third generation,
Right.
life and then have it go back to the ground.
Mm. And could you maybe say more about what you think? Because I can tell there's some pent up enthusiasm for that concept, or a lot of marinating is going on there. Could you say more about what you think the potential is there for consumer products and in thinking in this circular manner?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, the idea of taking a dinosaur like fossils out of the ground, like the take, make, and then waste,
Mhm.
dispose of, like that just it's linear. It just builds and builds and builds. And like that
Right.
just you can't do that forever. You can't take a non-renewable thing and make it build a pile and like expect it to be sustainable. So I think yeah, just thinking in how can we use materials as use as many renewable materials as possible, and how can we shorten that cycle so it goes back into the ground and grow more plants and create more products, like that type of thing. Or
Mhm.
if you are going to make something that needs to last a long time, like make it really good, like Patagonia, give it a or give options so you can fix it and keep it so that's sustainable as well. So I think it's figuring out what's the lifetime of your product, and is it long or short, right? We're trying to focus on something that's 1 to 5 years that doesn't need to last for 100 years.
Mhm.
But if you're making something that needs to last for 100 years, use the most sustainable materials you can that'll last for a long time so it doesn't end up in the garbage. So I think that type of thinking is, yeah, it's fun. Just how can we make it better?
Mhm. I think some other interview you were on, I heard you say specifically, if you gave Coca-Cola all their plastic
Mhm.
bottles back, they'd have to think about like what it was the hell they did with all those. And
Yeah.
I mean, one thing there, I'm not sure if Coca-Cola is going to be asking for all their bottles back. I don't know, but I do
No.
really appreciate that exact thought process. Is like, okay, if the company, as you mentioned the term y'all are using of this responsibility economy,
Hmm.
if the company is ultimately responsible for the end of life of their product, like they're going to have to think about what to do with it, you know?
Yeah.
And it certainly does seem to be the impetus for a lot of creative thinking, as it seems gets you excited about this area of sustainable product design. So I really like that kind of statement, like, oh, what would you do with that? And then if that was the case, you'd probably make the products with different materials. If you had to
Yeah,
figure out what to do with them, as opposed to just tossing them into a landfill. If they were responsible, it's like, well, we should probably find another use for them, or at a minimum, reuse, right, and use them to
right.
create new products.
Exactly. You can look at it as, oh, that's a big pile of garbage, all those bottles, or you can look at it like all the material in that, like all the energy that went into that, we can use it to make something else and use it over and over again. That type of thinking. So yeah, it's neat
Certainly.
stuff.
And so, Jeremy, before we dive into a couple final rapid fire questions, I'd love to hear what's maybe, and you've shared a lot of really thoughtful insights and advice for the journey here for Pela, excuse me. What might be a point of advice for, a 20, 25-year-old aspiring impact oriented entrepreneur who wants to build a sustainable product company of their own? What might be a tip or strategy for them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, start, just do it. But the other thing too is, from day one, we want to be the most environmentally and socially sustainable company, or we want to lead the way. So
Mhm.
it takes a lot of effort to build a company, but to do it, like when you're starting out, to go that extra mile, it's not like just go the extra, it's not uh, that hard to
Mm.
just right from the get-go, from when you're building it. Like, so I think I would say set your bar really high from the get-go. That's the easiest. That's probably the easiest time to do it, right? Like for these big companies to make the changes, that's you're turning the Titanic there, and it takes that. But for us, we're especially when you're really small, you're very nimble, and you can kind of so set the bar high. Do the, we want to be like, yeah, it's not just, we kind of see our product, business as a force of good, and our product is almost a vehicle where you can, help other people do better socially, like take proceeds from this and give it to them so they can improve and make things better. So it's kind of a holistic view, and more of the, I don't know if we're getting into books, but the infinite game was a great
Mm.
way to think about things. It's not short term, it's not winners and losers, it's long term, and finishing, you know having long term goals, and always working towards that.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. And that, that connects me to, I think that exact sort of experience, you might underestimate the value of the phone case that y'all have created. And so we're like, oh, cool, this is a sustainable alternative. And I appreciate that. But the very experience that happens is that now my fiance and I have become advocates for y'all's product, and like, not only are they really well designed, artistically, like they're really nice looking cases. It's a cool thing to share with someone else. So it's that fun experience you get to create for the consumers of your product. That's like, hey, here's this cool thing, and then they become those kind of ambassadors, you know, de facto as a product of what it is that you've created. And maybe that influences someone to not just buy a case from y'all's as opposed to, a competitor's non-sustainable alternative, but, hopefully that leads to a compounding effect of other behaviors and actions in their life. So it is certainly a much longer trajectory than just replacing your traditionally, plastic phone case.
Yeah, that's great. I love you that you said that was part of it. Hopefully it inspires other people. It's the ripple effect, right? Get people talking about it and just thinking about it and thinking about their choices in general. Um, is there a more sustainable replacement for product X that I'm buying? And then if everyone does that, the companies will have to change to survive, if
Mm,
the customer, if that's what they're wanting, right? So it's pretty neat if we look at it that way.
absolutely. And so, all right, with a couple rapid fire questions before we tidy
Sure.
up here.
Yeah.
Excellent. So first, you did mention a couple, but any favorite books that have very particularly influenced your views on life and work that you wouldn't mind recommending to our audience here?
Yeah. Just, one recent one is The Infinite Game. And that's a great one that we talked about, just thinking about, I think it fits really well with sustainable companies as well. Looking long term,
Mm,
like not quarter by quarter, like let's take the long view on this. And then Essentialism is a really good
mm,
one. Really good. I still struggle with that, but like the concept of what's important now not just in business, but in your home life.
Mm.
What's important now, it's, you know, spending time with my children and putting the work aside, or, you know, or what's important now as far as priority list at work. So I think those are some really good recent ones.
Hmm. We'll make sure those are attached to the show notes. I'm curious about those. And any particular morning routines or daily habits that feel almost essential to you?
Yeah. I like to try and get up early, so have kind of my Jeremy hour before the kids wake up. And yeah, it's journaling. 5-minute journal is great. I really like
Mm.
that. It's quick. You know, what are you grateful for, and that type of thing. And yeah, exercise as much as possible. Try and get sweating every day. That's really important. So kind of the main ones. And meditate. That helps keep a guy focused and clear the mind a little bit. So I've been those are the things I try and do every day. Those 3 things.
Excellent. And then what sort of hobbies or activities do you like to keep yourself busy with on evenings and weekends outside of
Yeah,
your work with
side of the
Pela?
kids.
Yeah, and the
And
kids, I
Pela.
suppose.
Yeah, get out and outside with the kids as much as possible. But in the winter, it's hockey. I play hockey a couple times a week. I love that. Getting together with my friends and getting really good exercise. And then mountain biking as much as possible. We've been I've been doing a lot of that lately. Got out kind of all through the winter here even. So that's fun. And yeah, just kind of getting in the water as much as possible too. Water sports, I love doing that. So getting out in nature as much as possible. Snowboarding, that's what I
Mm.
try and do.
Would agree there. Would agree
Yes.
there. And so finally, Jeremy, I really appreciate it. Any final ask or request of our audience here? Any parting words?
Parting words. I think if you have an idea, just start.
Mm.
Just get it out there, do it. Uh, Ask for help, find people who can help you, be creative. That's until you get on that path, you're not going to get the feedback that you need to kind of keep going. So just get on the path, step in the
Brilliant.
ring.
All right.